Joining us now, Corey Lewandowski, Senior Advisor to Trump-Pence 2020, author to your two New York Times bestsellers, Let Trump Be Trump and Trump's Enemies, and also goes on CNN, goes on Fox all the time, Judge Jeanine. Great guy, and he's trying to get everything straightened out for us. Hey, Corey, great to have you.
Hey, John, great to be on.
Okay, impeachment. Now we've gone into the phase where they're subpoenaing, they subpoenaed White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney. John Bolton says he's going to testify. The Republicans want to subpoena Adam Schiff. They want to subpoena other people that they expect to be rejected on. The president tweets out yesterday, "This is not fair. I have no due process. I have no attorney there. I have no ability to ask questions. I would get better treatment if I had a parking ticket." What's going on, Corey Lewandowski?
Well, John, as you know, the process has been completely unfair. Under the Clinton years, Bill Clinton and, by extension, the Democrats had the opportunity to use their subpoena power to bring people in. Bill Clinton also had the opportunity to have his attorneys present and ask questions of the witnesses. This president has none of that. So if we are going through an impeachment process, which is being run by Adam Schiff, then let's make sure that the process is fair, it's open. We're asking Congress to use their power to potentially remove a duly elected president of the United States, and this president, his team, has no ability to question the witnesses, has no ability to subpoena others and ask them to come in and testify. And if this is really about the Ukraine, which I think is all just a false narrative, then why aren't we bringing in Hunter Biden and why aren't we bringing in Joe Biden to really get to the bottom of this?
When you say it's a false narrative about Ukraine, Corey, what do you think, in your judgment, what's it about?
John, this is about the fact that they cannot beat Donald Trump. And so, first, as you know and your listeners know, this was collusion. Then it was obstruction. And now it's impeachment. This is not anything about high crimes and misdemeanors, which is the statute and the level for the impeachment of a president of the United States. This is simply about saying, we don't like the way Donald Trump delivers messages, so we're going to try and remove him from office.
So when we talk about the fact that this really has nothing to do with Ukraine per se, like I had Congressman Griffith on the other day. I thought he made a great comment from Southwest Virginia. He said, look, it's as simple as this. One administration stopped an investigation on corruption. The other administration tried to start an investigation on corruption. He said, that's the entire thing that's going on here, and it's turned into this impeachment clown show, basically. Let me just ask you this going forward. Let's look at the elections we just had. Kentucky governor losing. We got shellacked again in Virginia. We're losing the suburbs. You're a senior advisor to Trump 2020 campaign. I'm on the advisory committee. Is there any concern here that maybe we need to change our message and that we're not reaching suburban women? And is there a way for us to do that better than we are now?
Well, John, as it relates to the election on Tuesday night, Republicans won 7 out of 8 statewide offices in between Mississippi and in Kentucky. And every statewide office holder ran better than Matt Bevin did. And look, in full disclosure, I was in Kentucky on Monday night with the president. I went to the rally. Governor Bevin is a friend of mine. But clearly, the race in Kentucky was more about Governor Bevin than anything else.
Right.
That being said, it is also a historical precedent that no Republican governor has ever been reelected in the state of Kentucky, and no Republican has ever followed a Republican governor in the state of Kentucky. So we were up against a historical trend. And but when you have an election like we did on Tuesday night, where in the Philadelphia suburbs we got crushed, and in the western part of Pennsylvania we dominated, it further illustrates that this country is more and more divided. Each state is more and more divided, and The fact that Donald Trump was not on the top of the ticket on Tuesday night also reminds people that his policies were. And if you believe that I do, like I do, that smaller government, lower taxes, and less regulation is the path to prosperity, then you saw places like Mississippi and by and large Kentucky that won. And you saw Western Pennsylvania that won. But we do have work to do, John.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot take things for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a juggernaut of a campaign
Mm-hmm.
who is analyzing and crunching these numbers, doing after-action reports. I was on phone calls most of the day on Wednesday after the elections
Mm-hmm.
with the team, talking about the data that we saw coming out and making sure that we have a plan for it. There's work to do in the suburbs, there's no question. But by and large, we have to be recognizing that 7 out of 8 statewide wins is a successful night for the Trump-Pence operation.
Well, look, also, you just look at historical polling during impeachment. During the impeachment process, numbers go down for the president. It happened during Clinton, certainly happened during Richard Nixon. Then the numbers went down. Clinton rebounded immediately after he was acquitted because people saw that as kind of a dumb thing the Republicans did, and they felt they were just tired of the whole thing. And so he rebounded, got up into what? The high 60s in about 60 or 75 days. So that can certainly happen. Rasmussen poll comes out today. Trump's approval rating back up to 50%, higher than it's been in some time on this Rasmussen poll. So people starting to see. But look, I think finally you guys are getting the messaging right about impeachment because you're fighting back. And one of the things Bannon said the other day, and I agree with him, he said basically the Democrats on impeachment have had 60 days of 3 shots on goal. You're a hockey player, no goalie. They just keep shooting the puck in. There's no defense. Now we're starting to put up a fight. That might be turning the tide. How do you see that going forward, Corey?
Yeah, John, I don't disagree with that. And look, bringing in Pam Bondi, who has been a stalwart supporter of this president, 2-time former Attorney General of Florida, very smart, very sophisticated, and Tony Saya, who, as you mentioned earlier, served as the Chief Communications Officer for the Treasury Department and really helped to shepherd the messaging during the tax cut fight, I think is a step in the right direction. They're coming into the White House as special government employees. They're going to help on messaging, help on crafting a pushback against this false impeachment narrative. So this is a good thing. And then you've got, people like me and many others who are on television reminding the American people that this is all a sham. If this was a real operation, we'd be able to view it. Now, Adam Schiff says that he's going to start to hold these hearings in public. And, John, the last time a hearing in Congress was held in public, I think it was me. And it didn't go very well for the Democrats because there was no there, as we say in the business. And if that's what this is going to devolve into, I think it's a huge success for the Trump administration to have these conversations on television, listening to what the Democrats are really trying to do, listening to what they're really trying to say. And just like in the years of the Clinton impeachment, you will see Donald Trump come out of this stronger than he went in.
Right. Well, look, I think if you look at historical trend, that is going to happen, and I think this is going to backfire on the Democrats. But look, right now, they've had it their way. They release, we can go over this 100 times, but they, systematically release little nuggets of damaging information to their favorite leakers. We don't get the whole story. They'll take a 9-hour transcript, get 2 sentences, leak that to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Political, HuffPost, whatever, and that's the story of the day. I think that's ending once it goes public, and that we have people now in the White House fighting back. Now, I want to get to Corey Lewandowski's run for the Senate, New Hampshire. I looked at the fundraising numbers, Corey, of the other Republicans. It would be fine if they were running for supervisor, right? These are not Senate finance campaign numbers. So basically, none of those people are going to be able to beat Jane Shaheen. You might as well just give the state to the Democrats. If you run, you win, you go into the U.S. Senate. Where are you on deciding on that race, Corey Lewandowski?
Well, John, thanks for the question. I spent some time flying to Kentucky on Air Force One with President Trump on Monday. On the plane on the way down with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. We talked about the race in New Hampshire a little bit, and the president was very clear at that time and continues to be that he wants me to get into the race because he knows if I get into the race, as you've stated, and I agree with your analysis, if I run, I win.
Yes.
So look, there is a lot of factors that go into a decision like this. I spent some time yesterday with the vice president. He was in New Hampshire. He was officially filing the paperwork to put the Trump-Pence name on the ballot for the primary process in New Hampshire. We talked about the race a little bit. I'm going to have some additional conversations. But the absolute truth, John, and you're exactly right, is if I get in this race, I'm going to win this race. And I said it last night in New Hampshire. I say it again today. But I want to continue to make sure that my priority is making sure that this president and vice president are reelected as the chief executive officers of our country, because that is something that will fundamentally transform the way our country functions for the next 30, 40, or 50 years. And to me and my children and hopefully my grandchildren, that's the priority. That being said, I have decided that by the end of this year, I'll make a decision on the Senate race. I've been very clear with you that my family considerations are the utmost important to me. I've got a daughter who's 13 years old, and the world of social media is a tough one, and it's a sad state of affairs. But listening to and looking at what kids are subjected to because of the work that their parents do is a true concern. And I know I spoke to the president about that concern recently. He has a 13-year-old son, and I can only imagine what he has to go through. But my family and I continue to talk about it. We're going to take some time over the Thanksgiving holiday, as we always do, have some family discussions. And then I'm going to come to a resolution, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to drag out this process to the point where if I decide not to get in this race in June, when the filing deadline actually happens, I don't want the other Republicans to potentially blame me that they couldn't raise money or they weren't successful. So I met with Governor Sununu last Friday. I gave him that commitment as well. I spoke with him again yesterday. I've spoken to the president about this. And so I'm telling you, by the end of this year, John, I'm going to make a decision on my U.S. Senate run. I think I have an enormous grassroots base, a fundraising support, and the name ID, and the tenacity, and the wherewithal to bring a fight directly to Jeanne Shaheen like she has never seen before, and do that as well for the next 6 years for the people of New Hampshire. And I'm very excited about the prospect of it. I like the idea of it, John. I spent some time with other U.S. senators recently, either flying on the plane or having conversations with them. They've encouraged me enormous amounts of encouragement to get into this race. And so I really want to do this. And if I can take care of the family considerations and have the support of the White House and my friends there, then I'm all in, and I'll know that answer, what is now, John, really about 7 weeks away.
Well, I really appreciate your careful deliberation. We know each other, Corey, very well. I know how tight-knit your family is. I know what a great father you are. Like I am, we always share stories about our kids with each other all the time. And I get it. I really get it. And, you've got a 13-year-old daughter in middle school, and the social media thing that's going to go on is a definite concern for your family. So I really understand that. Now, having said that, if you run, you win. And if you run, I've already got my Amtrak ticket and all our equipment set up. We're moving our radio show base to Windham, New Hampshire for the Corey Lewandowski Senate run. So you better get prepared for us up there. We're coming, and we're going to put down roots. And I'm going to be following the Senate campaign every day, because I tell you what, you're going to be a transformational candidate, and you're going to win New Hampshire. And when you get to the U.S. Senate, when Trump is reelected, you're going to be the champion of his America First policy agenda. So you run, we're coming, our studio sets up, and hey, we're off, right?
John, my wife is excited. She says, I'm going to cook John breakfast every day. Now, I didn't tell her that you get up at 4 a.m. every day to get ready for your radio show, so I don't think she understands that. But that being said, there's so much support, John, for a candidate that's going to fight for New Hampshire, someone who is not going to vote for sanctuary cities, someone who's going to put New Hampshire values first. I saw it yesterday at the State House when the vice president came up and filed the paperwork. Mm-hmm. Hundreds of people begging me, Corey, please get in the race, please get in the race. You can run, you can win. And I know that to be true. I really do. I am only getting in this race if and for the people of New Hampshire, for my family, and to change Washington, D.C. Because what we've learned about Donald Trump in the last almost 3 years that he's been the president is he has fundamentally changed Washington. He made promises, and he's kept those promises. And Washington doesn't know what to do with Donald Trump. And I'll tell you what, I don't think members of the United States Senate Republican caucus would know what to do with Corey Lewandowski, because the only person and the only people I will be beholden to are the people of the state of New Hampshire, my family, and the higher power that none of us get a direct line to, which is God. That's who I'm responsible to. So just because it's always been done one way or another in Washington, if I come down as the next U.S. Senator from New Hampshire, I will not cave to the way Washington works. I will not be part of the lobbyist community. I have no interest in that. I will report to the people in New Hampshire, my family, and God, and I will do what I think is best in every situation for my constituents. So, look, I really, really think, John, I could be a great U.S. Senator from the state of New Hampshire, and I know unequivocally that if I get in this race, I'm going to win.
You will be a transformational figure in the U.S. Senate in Washington that will change the way business is done there. I have no doubt about that. That's why many of us who are your good friends are encouraging you to get in this race because, let alone the decisions for your family, you'll be an advocate of the president for a second term, but you have the ability as a one-man gang to change the way people look at Washington.
The other factor, John, in this Senate race, and your listeners need to understand this, is if by some chance we, in the 2020 election cycles, lose a couple Republicans in the U.S. Senate, and I mean some of the tough races. I don't want to go through them all, but you know which races those are: Arizona, Colorado, North Carolina, whatever it may be. And we can actually pick up a seat, steal a seat back from the Democrats. The seat in New Hampshire could be the race that allows the president to continue his strong judicial picks, because it could be the seat that keeps the Republicans in the majority in 2020. And that's also a very strong determining factor.
Corey Lewandowski, I want to thank you for your time today and for your candor on the John Fredericks Radio Network. As always, Corey, thank you for being with me, and I'll see you in New Hampshire very, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, John.